CWPA Remote.
Hi, I'm Ed Hawes, Director of Communications for the Collegiate Water Polo Association, and this is CWPA Remote. Joining me today is Alex Nowlin, former Bucknell University standout and co-founder with his sister Emily of Uscape, an apparel company specializing in college apparel, which is booming right now. See it in all the campus bookstores around the country, and even my cousins are wearing your apparel from colleges all around the country. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to Bucknell originally and your background, and then how you came to found the company.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. My Bucknell journey is kind of an interesting one. I'll give you the quick kind of 1 minute overview, but I was really aggressively pursuing a couple premier sort of East Coast schools that I'd been talking to for a while. I knew John Abdu from camps that I had gone to, so I'd known him since I was probably like 15 years old. But really, Bucknell wasn't even on my radar until maybe February timeframe. I did not get an early decision admit that I had expected to get somewhere else, and so was kind of scrambling at the last minute. I had taken, I think, 4 of my 5 official visits at that point, and called Abdu up and said, "Hey, I'd like to come out to Bucknell. Can you make that happen?" And I think I went out like 2 weeks later on an official visit in February. Fell in love. Just awesome program, just beautiful campus. And knew Abdu quite well, so I felt really comfortable with him as a coach and felt good about the students and players that I got to meet. And then he was able to also get me into the School of Management, or I guess I got myself in, but he was able to make a strong recommendation that I was a good candidate for that program. And that turned out to be just an amazing college that they have at Bucknell, and a big part of why I think I turned out with a good background to start a business after school.
All right. Well, that kind of leads into the question. Obviously at Bucknell, you were no slouch in the water as a water polo player. Let me just make sure I get this right. 251 points for your career, 108 goals, 143 assists. When you left, 143 assists, ranked 8th in school history on the career record board. So you were no slouch in the water, but obviously not many opportunities for post collegiate playing experiences on the pro level. So you went into business, and the business started at Bucknell in their business school.
It did. Yeah, it did. It evolved out of a management course that I had taken that sort of was about putting out a product and selling it. And we designed a product, and after seeing how successful it was, we just sort of came across and we're like, you know what? The concept of beautiful school buildings resonates across campuses across America. Every kid can stand on a quad and look out and see their skyline for their school, whether it's the library or, where they spend all their class time in a really pretty building. And so that was like a feeling that we were able to capture in the first 10, 15 schools that we did, really just focusing on that idea of, that picturesque look at night. And so we started making skyline designs for, 10, 15 schools. Really was a hobby at that point, not something I really thought was going to be a full-time gig. And I actually went into a finance job out of school, which is what I focused on at Bucknell. I went into a role at GE Capital in finance and worked there for about a year. And Uscape was the night gig. My sister Emily, who was 2 years younger than me at Bucknell, she kept doing the designs while we were in school, or while she was in school and while I was working. And I would sort of process orders at night. We had a couple sales reps we were working with, but it was just a fun hobby, and then became something where I decided I could do it full time. But yeah, it's a cool kind of full circle Bucknell story, and obviously wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have gone to Bucknell. So I think that's why I was supposed to end up there.
How do you kind of go from college student to business executive? And obviously you're not just the executive, you're also owner, marketing, finance. You take on all those roles simultaneously. How does someone coming out of college deal with that type of pressure coming out right away? Obviously, you were working full time while you're doing this, and then it kind of transitioned to where you are now.
Yeah, I kind of expected a question like this. I was like thinking back on the traditional, like what makes a water polo player cut out to start a business or be an entrepreneur. And the thing I was thinking about during Hell Week at Bucknell, every year we had this one set. It was 14 400s meters. And at the end of every 50 meter, it was like 20 of something. So whether it was 20 push-ups or 20 sit-ups or 20 whatever. And I remember my freshman year when I did it, it was called the quit set. Like we literally did it because kids would completely quit from the program during the set. And it was essentially to weed out the people that just like couldn't tough it out. And I think like that's a perfect example of what running a business is like. It's really challenging. It's really tough. But if you put your head down and work, you end up in, a good spot. Like a lot of people don't put the full effort in to just get through the finish line or to get through that first goal or to hit that milestone. And it's not always perfect. Your 14 400 set might not look very good, but if you finish through, you're ahead of most people. So I was just kind of thinking back on like that experience, and you do it the first time, you're like, I could never do that again. But then you do it 4 years in a row, and whatever you get thrown at, even like this whole COVID situation has been super challenging for a business. Obviously, colleges are not in session right now. We lost a significant amount of sales during that March through June period when you normally have graduations and all sorts of stuff like that. And so we've pivoted a bit and been able to really save some money in certain areas and then find a couple new revenue streams. But it's just sort of that like put your head down and work mentality that I think water polo sets you really well up for.
All right. Obviously, distribution is always a challenge for any business. How do you get your product into the marketplace? How did you folks go about getting your product into the marketplace? Obviously, you're going through bookstores on some of the college campuses, and also to some extent online sales as well. So how do you go about getting your product out there, and how's that started from when it started till now? How's it changed?
Yeah, it's evolved quite a bit. So in the very beginning, it was us calling, and I even had my mom making some sales calls. When I was at GE Capital, she'd call some bookstores. She used to be in tech sales, so she would make some phone calls during the day to like qualify a cold lead, and then I would take it from being a warm lead to actually closing it. But we had to guarantee the sale. So we'd go to a bookstore and say, hey, can you please take 144 shirts? University of Vermont is killing it with this. We think you'd do super well. And the bookstore buyer, after like 6-7 phone calls, would finally be like, all right, Uscape, I'll give you a shot just to like have you stop bugging me. And it would sell through. It would sell great. We'd guarantee them if it didn't sell in 60 days, we'd buy it all back. So it was kind of risk-free. But even that was challenging. I mean, stores are limited in the amount of space they have. So there were people that just didn't even want that. So that was like the first approach. I'd say for the first 10 or 15 schools, we had to guarantee the sale. And then we had testimonials. We could say, hey, pick up the phone and call the buyer over at Miami University or Collegiate or whatever it was. And they'll tell you how great our stuff is doing. And that's what people did. And so from there, really started to develop traction. That's kind of how it went for maybe school 15 through 50 was really the word of mouth. And then we started getting noticed. So we were going to trade shows. We had independent sales reps who'd reach out to us and say, hey, I'm an independent rep. I'm in the Pennsylvania area. I cover these schools. Can I rep your line? And so we've got, I think last time we're at either 18 or 19 independent sales reps right now. We have the entire U.S. covered. And these are professional salesmen, anywhere from 35 to a couple guys are in their 60s that have been doing this for most of them for their full career. And the bookstore buyer has been someone they've known for, 15 or 20 years at this point, who's now probably the manager of the bookstore, or even some of these really big schools have multiple stores. So they'll have someone who sits over all of them. And it's just something people can build a career out. So we've got a whole network of reps we work with now. We travel around with them. We go to trade shows. And then there's still the people that have never heard of us that we're talking to in the smaller areas or even a couple schools in Canada that we're trying to get into that have no idea who we are. And it's sort of like, it's one of those three approaches that we have to take with everybody. But for the most part, it's really trying to get them to bring the product in, and then it sells itself.
Okay. And obviously at CWPA, we have the varsity side and the club side of the league. So we cover a majority of the country. Yeah. How would a school that's not currently part of Uscape get themselves involved with Uscape? If you have an athlete or someone at a school who's like, well, I'm looking for this apparel for my school. How do they go about that process?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing would be if you can make an intro to your bookstore. If there's someone there, if you can reach out to, send me an email. I'll send you a shirt or a catalog. You take it in and say, hey, Bucknell has this. Like, we need this at wherever it is, and have them contact us, and we'll get it going from there. It's really, if we have a bookstore that wants our product, like, we don't say no to stores. We're not this ultra selective brand where we go, oh no, we won't sell there. Well, anybody that wants it. I mean, we have schools, that you've probably even never heard of that do fantastic with the program. And so, big, small, in between, we work with everybody. Just, we have to have the demand. So, students would either want it, or a bookstore that approaches us and says, hey, I heard about your product or saw you at a trade show. But we're, adding schools every month. So any and all, we'll take them.
I noticed on your website, it's not just colleges. You also have a couple of tie-dye lines on there. It looks like you're expanding into other areas. You're not just shirts, you're also hats. The office is pretty close to Villanova University. You notice there's a Villanova University hat. So exactly all the apparel, you have the shirts, you have the hats. What else is in the pipeline for Uscape in the next couple of years? Or
I think we're pretty happy with the products that we're in. We're going to get into like sweatpants and shorts just because that's so trendy right now. So some tie-dye. Our tie-dye does really, really well. And so we're getting into some different, like, more 80s retro washes, and then shorts are really popular right now too, like sweatpant type shorts. So we're definitely going to be adding that probably in the next 3 to 6 months for our next catalog. And then other than that, it's really getting into new markets. So, like, we've got some corporate customers we work with that will have, an event, or they've got a team that they want to, like, outfit with some more cool on-trend stuff that we'll do. And so that's a market we're looking at getting into. And then the other market where we feel like, we can just take our existing product and apply what we're doing is the ski market. We have about 15 ski resorts that we sell to. And so just like on-campus bookstore at a school, we're actually in the on-mountain shop. So at, like, Brighton and Big Sky, a bunch of smaller mountains in Michigan, Boyne and Sugarloaf. In Maine, we're in their main stores there. And the product has done awesome there. And if you think about it, we're capturing, like, the mountain is the silhouette of the graphic we're focusing on. But every ski town has a unique culture and a vibe to it. So we're able to pull that into the graphics and the product. So between those three, sort of the resort, the college, and then maybe even some sort of corporate market, we feel like that's kind of the focus for the next maybe 12 to 18 months to take what we're doing, well in college, and then applying that to other markets. But I mean, there's so many markets out there. There's the brewery market. That is such a big space right now for people. You walk into any local brewery, they have all their own gear too. So there's a bunch of places we feel like we could take it. It's just honestly, being able to fund it ourselves and keeping up with it, and just choosing, what the next best thing is versus trying to go too far too fast.
All right. I usually end these things with a question when we're doing with the coaches about, what do you wish you had known when you started out? Sure. So I'll kind of take from the same perspective. Now that you've been in the game and you've had success, what do you wish you had known when you started out that you know now?
That's a tough one. That's a stumper. What do I wish I knew? I wish I knew that we weren't going to get every single license that we thought we were going to get. No, that's more of a joke. Some of the schools have just been impossible to get into, like sure. Ohio State. Penn State took us 4 years. We got that license last year. I just didn't realize how long it would take, I guess. I built this plan for, what I thought the business would look like. And we've gotten there, but it just took longer than I initially thought. And so I think maybe the advice would be, don't get too caught up on maybe one specific goal. Be focused on, like, hitting that next milestone, and then revising, looking at what you're doing and seeing if you're on track. Were your assumptions correct? Is there something that you assumed that was going to happen that didn't? And do you need to, plan differently? Do you need to get some advisors that can help walk you through something? I asked a ton of questions, and I guess honestly, maybe something I wish I would have known is how willing people are to talk to you about your business. You don't have to pretend like you're operating in the dark. There's a lot of, even within the Bucknell network, I have so many people, and a couple that we actually work with that are, in industries that support what we're able to do from like a manufacturing standpoint and things like that. But talking to people, I think for the first year and a half, I didn't have this amazing story to tell people. We were only in 50 schools. And so I was like, oh, this cool CEO is not going to want to talk to me, or this guy who works at this company who's a Bucknell alum is not going to want to talk to me. But 90% of the time when you reach out to somebody and you're in their network, whether it's through water polo, I'm really close with Brad Schumacher from Cap 7, if you're familiar with him. He's a really good family friend. I played at Set growing up, and he's my parents babysit his kids sometimes, and he's 3-4 miles down the road. We get together all the time. So between the water polo network and between Bucknell, whatever your network is, use it. I think I was a little bit embarrassed for the first year or two to just reach out to people and tell them my story. Most people are so excited to just have the chance to share some wisdom and help out. So I think that would probably be my roundabout advice.
All right. Obviously, if we can help you with the business, hit us with the website and the socials and where to find you guys online.
Yeah, let us know when you put it out. I'd love to share it, and definitely appreciate you reaching out. Cool to do this, and I'm glad you guys are finding a way to stay busy with content and stuff throughout all this. I know it's not easy, so yeah, thanks, Ed. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool.